You finally see them clearly. The mask has slipped. You know what they really are, and more importantly, they know that you know. Something shifts in their eyes. A flicker of recognition. The game has changed. And what comes next is far more dangerous than anything that came before. Here's what most people don't realize. When someone harmful knows you've seen through them, they don't retreat. They don't apologize. They don't suddenly become honest. They escalate. The tactics become more sophisticated, more aggressive, more designed to make you question your own reality or destroy your credibility before you can speak. This isn't about seeing threats everywhere or creating enemies where none exist. It's about recognizing patterns so you can protect yourself when it matters most. Because once they know you've seen behind the mask, the rules change completely. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Today I'm going to show you 8 things harmful people do when they realize you've seen through them. Number 5 is the most dangerous because it makes you look like the problem while they play the victim perfectly. By the end, you'll know exactly what to expect and how to stay grounded when their tactics intensify. If you've ever felt that shift when someone realized you saw through them, stay with me. 1. They suddenly become extremely nice. The moment they sense you've seen through them, something strange happens. The coldness disappears. The manipulation pauses. Suddenly, they're the kindest person you've ever met. You've experienced this confusion before. Someone who has been subtly undermining you, dismissing you, or making your life difficult suddenly transforms. Out of nowhere, they're generous, complimentary, helpful in ways they've never been before. They remember details about your life. They ask about your day with what seems like genuine interest, and you start doubting yourself. Maybe you were wrong about them. Maybe they've changed. Maybe you judged too harshly. That's exactly what they want you to think. I watched this happen to a woman named Clara. For months, her colleague had been subtly undermining her at work, taking credit for her ideas, spreading quiet rumors, making her look bad in meetings. Clara finally saw the pattern clearly and started protecting herself. She pulled back, kept her distance, stopped sharing information. Within days, the colleague transformed completely, suddenly bringing Clara coffee every morning, complimenting her work in front of others, offering to help with projects. "I feel like we got off on the wrong foot," she said with a warm smile. "Let's start fresh." Clara almost believed it, almost let her guard down. The kindness felt so real. But then she noticed something. When Clara didn't respond exactly the way she wanted, the mask would flicker. A flash of irritation behind the eyes, a cold glance when she thought no one was watching. The warmth that disappeared the moment Clara looked away. The charm wasn't change, it was strategy. Here's why they do this. When they realize you've seen through them, their first instinct is to reset the relationship, to make you doubt your own perception. If they're suddenly wonderful, maybe everything you observed was wrong. Maybe the problem was you all along. This sudden kindness is a manipulation tactic. It's designed to confuse you, lower your defenses, and regain access to your trust. It's not transformation, it's recalibration. They're not becoming better, they're becoming smarter about hiding what they are. Seneca wrote, "Trust, like the soul, never returns once it has departed." When someone has shown you who they are through consistent behavior, sudden kindness doesn't erase that truth. Trust your observations over their performance. You've probably experienced this shift before, watched someone become suspiciously nice right after you started pulling away, felt that confusion between wanting to believe and knowing better. Most people have. When someone who has shown harmful patterns suddenly becomes excessively kind, don't let confusion override your judgment. Maintain your boundaries. Watch for consistency over time, not sudden shifts that appear exactly when you're pulling away. Sudden kindness is their first attempt to regain control. But when that doesn't work, they try something more aggressive, rewriting history itself. 2. They rewrite history. You remember exactly what happened. You were there. But now they're telling a completely different version, and telling it with such confidence that you start questioning your own memory. You've felt this disorientation before. Something happened. You know it happened. You remember the words, the moment, the feeling. But when you bring it up, they look at you with genuine confusion. And suddenly, you're not sure anymore. Maybe you did remember it wrong. Maybe you were being too sensitive. Maybe it wasn't as bad as you thought. That uncertainty is exactly what they're creating. There was a man named David who experienced this firsthand. He confronted a close friend about something hurtful that was said at a dinner party. David remembered the exact words, the exact moment. But when he brought it up, his friend looked genuinely puzzled. "You've been remembering things incorrectly lately. I'm a little worried about you." David started doubting himself. The friend sounded so sincere, so concerned. Maybe David had misunderstood. Maybe his memory wasn't as reliable as he thought. Weeks later, another friend who was at that same dinner mentioned the comment casually in conversation. It had happened. Exactly as David remembered. His friend hadn't been confused. He'd been deliberately rewriting reality. Here's why they do this. When you know the truth about them, they can't change what actually happened. But they can try to change your certainty about what happened. If they can make you doubt your memory, your perception, your judgment, they regain power over the situation. This is a form of gaslighting. The goal isn't necessarily to convince you they're right. It's to make you unsure that you're right. Uncertainty is far easier to manipulate than certainty. A person who trusts their own perception is dangerous to them. A person who doubts everything is controllable. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When someone tries to rewrite your reality, hold firm to what you know. You've probably had your memory questioned by someone who benefited from your confusion. Felt that strange disorientation of being told something didn't happen when you know it did. Most people have. When someone denies something you clearly remember, don't immediately assume you're wrong. Verify with others when possible. Keep records. Trust yourself. If you've learned to trust your own memory even when someone tries to rewrite it, type "I know what I saw" below to remind yourself and others that your perception is valid. Rewriting history makes you doubt yourself, but when that fails, they move to something even more damaging, turning others against you before you can speak. 3. They turn others against you. You haven't said anything to anyone, but somehow people start treating you differently. Conversations stop when you enter the room. Friends seem distant. Something is being said about you, and you're the last to know. You've felt this strange isolation before. One day everything seems normal. The next, there's a shift you can't explain. People who were warm are now cool. Invitations stop coming. Someone asks if you're doing okay in a tone that suggests they've heard something concerning, and you have no idea what's happening because the campaign against you has been running quietly in the background. Let me tell you about a woman named Rachel. She had distanced herself from a friend after recognizing a pattern of manipulation. She didn't tell anyone why. She didn't want drama. She simply pulled back quietly, hoping to protect her peace without creating conflict. Within weeks, she noticed something strange. Mutual friends started treating her differently. One mentioned being worried about her. Another cancelled plans with a weak excuse and never rescheduled. A colleague at work asked if everything was okay at home. With a concerned look, Rachel didn't understand. She was confused until a close friend finally told her the truth. Her former friend had been talking to everyone, expressing concern about Rachel's mental state, hinting that Rachel had been acting unstable lately, suggesting never directly, always with care, that anyone close to Rachel should. It was a calculated campaign. Rachel never saw it coming. By the time she understood what was happening, the narrative had already spread. People had formed opinions based on a story she never got to respond to. Here's why they do this. When you pull away from someone harmful, you become a threat. You might tell others what you saw. You might damage their reputation, so they strike first, controlling the narrative before you can. By positioning themselves as concerned rather than threatened, they accomplish two things at once. They damage your credibility, and they look like the caring one. Anyone who later hears your side has already been primed to doubt you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Don't let their campaign define you. Those who truly know you will see the truth over time. You've probably experienced this isolation without understanding where it came from. Felt people pull away for reasons no one would explain. Discovered too late that someone had been quietly poisoning the well. Most people have. If you sense a smear campaign, resist the urge to defend yourself to everyone. Stay calm. Let your consistent behavior speak. Turning others against you isolates you completely, but their next tactic is even more disorienting. They start playing the victim. 4. They play the victim. They hurt you. You finally address it. And somehow, by the end of the conversation, you're the one apologizing and they're the one who's been wronged. You've lived this confusion before. You try to set a boundary. You confront harmful behavior. You simply pull away to protect yourself. And suddenly, they're devastated. Confused about why you're being so cruel to them, they tell others how much you've wounded them. They express pain so convincingly that people who don't know the full story genuinely feel sorry for them and wonder what's wrong with you. I knew a man named Thomas who experienced this reversal firsthand. After years of manipulation and dismissive treatment from a family member, he finally spoke up. He stayed calm, used specific examples, explained clearly how the behavior had affected him. He thought he was finally standing up for himself. Within hours, that family member had called other relatives in tears. "I don't know what I did wrong. He attacked me out of nowhere. I've always tried so hard with him, and this is how he treats me." By the next family gathering, Thomas was treated like the problem. Relatives who hadn't heard his side gave him cold looks. Some pulled him aside to suggest he apologize, though for what exactly, he wasn't sure anymore. The person who had hurt him for years was now the victim. And Thomas had somehow become the aggressor, simply for speaking truth. Here's why they do this. Playing the victim accomplishes multiple things at once. It deflects attention from their actual behavior. It generates sympathy and support from others. It puts you on the defensive. Now you're explaining why you're not a bad person instead of addressing what they did. The victim role is powerful because it's almost impossible to attack. Who criticizes someone who's suffering? This reversal is calculated and devastatingly effective. They get to harm you, then get comforted for being harmed by your response. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." They manufacture suffering to manipulate perception. Don't let their performed pain make you doubt your legitimate grievances. You've probably experienced this reversal before. Watched someone flip the script so completely that you questioned your own reality. Ended up apologizing when you were the one who deserved an apology. Most people have. When someone plays the victim after you set a boundary, recognize the tactic for what it is. You can acknowledge their feelings without accepting blame. Your boundary was valid regardless of how they choose to frame their response. If you're learning to see through the mask and trust your own experience, hit subscribe. We're building clarity together. Playing the victim flips the entire script. But the next tactic is the one that damages you most because it makes everyone think you're the unstable one. 5. They make you look like the crazy one. This is the most dangerous tactic of all and the hardest to fight. They don't just attack your character, they attack your sanity. And by the time you realize what's happening, everyone else is already questioning your stability. You've felt this trap close around you before. You express a concern, they say you're overreacting. You remember something clearly, they say you're confused. You get upset about legitimate harm and they tell others you're unstable or having issues. Everything you say or do gets reframed as evidence that something is wrong with you, not them, you. There was a woman named Monica who lived through this nightmare. She worked with someone she eventually recognized as deeply manipulative. When she started setting boundaries and documenting concerning behavior, something shifted in how she was treated. Her colleague began expressing worry about her to management. Mentioned, Monica seemed stressed lately. Wondered aloud in meetings if Monica was handling the workload okay. Always with concern. Always with care. When Monica raised legitimate issues about projects, her colleague would nod sympathetically, then later tell others, "She's been struggling. I'm trying to support her, but I'm concerned." Monica's observations were accurate. Her concerns were valid. But by the time she tried to address them formally, her credibility had already been destroyed from within. She wasn't seen as someone identifying problems. The manipulator looked supportive. Monica looked unstable, and the actual issues never got addressed. Here's why this tactic is so devastating. When they attack your sanity rather than your arguments, there's almost no way to win. If you stay calm, they say you're suppressing. If you get emotional, you prove their point. If you defend yourself, you look defensive. This is gaslighting combined with character destruction. The goal is to make you unbelievable before you ever speak, so that anything you say can be dismissed as instability rather than truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." When someone tries to make you doubt your sanity, anchor yourself in what you know. Your perception is valid. Your concerns are real. Don't let their narrative infiltrate your inner fortress. You've probably been made to feel crazy for seeing clearly before. Had your valid concerns dismissed as overreaction, watched your credibility crumble while theirs stayed intact. Most people have. Document everything, keep records, save messages, note dates. When your sanity is under attack, evidence is your only defense. Find someone outside the situation who knows you, someone who can confirm that you're not losing your mind. Making you look unstable destroys your voice completely. But when you still don't back down, they try something else, testing your limits repeatedly to see how much you'll take. 6. They test your boundaries repeatedly. You set a boundary. They cross it, but just barely. You address it. They apologize, then do something similar a few days later. The violations are never quite big enough to justify a major response, but they never stop. You've lived this exhaustion before. Each boundary violation is small, easy to dismiss. Maybe I'm overreacting, but they keep coming. Small comments, minor intrusions, little tests to see what you'll accept. If you let one slide, they push further. If you respond, they act confused about why you're so upset over nothing. You're always either overreacting or letting things go, never simply having your limits respected. Picture this. A man named James had clearly told a colleague to stop making comments about his personal life. The colleague apologized, seemed to understand. For a few days, nothing happened. Then, a week later, a joke about James's relationship. When James didn't laugh, the colleague shrugged. "Relax, I was just kidding. Can't you take a joke?" A few days later, another comment. More personal this time. Then another. Each one small enough to seem insignificant on its own. Each one testing whether the boundary James set still existed. James found himself constantly on edge. But the pattern was exhausting. A constant low-level violation that never quite crossed the line enough to justify a strong response. That was exactly the point. The colleague wasn't respecting the boundary. He was mapping its edges, testing exactly how much he could get away with, seeing how far he could push before James would actually do something about it. Here's why they do this. Repeated small violations accomplish something important. They wear you down. If they can't violate your boundaries openly, they'll erode them slowly. Death by 1,000 cuts. This tactic also keeps you off balance. You can never relax. You can never trust that the boundary will hold. And each time you let a small violation slide because it doesn't seem worth fighting over, they learn they can push a little further next time. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." Know your boundaries, and defend them consistently, regardless of how small the violation seems. Small compromises add up to complete erosion. You've probably had your boundaries tested this way before. Felt that constant low-level tension of never knowing when the next push would come. Wondered if you were making a big deal out of nothing. Most people have. When someone repeatedly tests your limits with small violations, address the pattern, not just individual incidents. I've noticed this keeps happening despite our conversation. And be prepared. If they won't respect clear boundaries, distance may be your only protection. If you're learning that your boundaries deserve to be respected without negotiation, hit subscribe. We're protecting our peace together. Testing boundaries wears you down slowly. But when none of their tactics work, they pull out something unexpected, your own secrets. 7. They use your secrets against you. You trusted them once, shared something private, something you wouldn't tell just anyone. You've felt this trap before. Maybe it's a subtle hint dropped in conversation when others are around. Maybe it's information accidentally mentioned to someone who shouldn't know. Or maybe it's more direct, a look that says, "I wonder what people would think if they knew about." What was once intimacy is now ammunition. The more you trusted them, the more they have to use against you. I watched this unfold with a woman named Natalie. Years before, she'd confided in a close friend about a difficult period in her life, struggles she'd overcome but wasn't proud of. It felt safe at the time. The friend seemed supportive. Natalie felt lighter having finally shared it with someone. When Natalie eventually pulled away after recognizing manipulative patterns, things changed. Her friend started dropping hints around mutual acquaintances. Nothing explicit, just enough to create curiosity. Natalie's been through a lot. she's really struggled in the past. Nothing was said outright. Everything was deniable. But the message was unmistakable. I have information. I can use it. Don't forget who you've trusted. Natalie felt trapped, not because her friend actually had power over her life, but because she'd given that power away, one confidence at a time. Every secret shared had become a chain. Here's why they do this. Your secrets are leverage. The more you've shared, the more control they have. When you try to distance yourself, they remind you directly or indirectly of what they know. This isn't always about actually exposing you. The threat is often enough. Just knowing they could share your private information keeps you hesitant. It makes you second-guess fully breaking away. It gives them ongoing influence, even when the relationship is essentially over. Seneca wrote, "If you wish to be loved, love." But the reverse is equally true. If you wish to be free, be careful who you trust with information that could be used against you. Trust should be earned, and even then, given thoughtfully. You've probably shared something with the wrong person before. Felt that sinking realization when you understood they now held something over you. Experienced the subtle threat of secrets weaponized. Most people have. If someone holds your secrets as leverage, recognize that this dynamic will never change on its own. Don't let the fear of exposure keep you trapped in something harmful. Whatever they might reveal is survivable. Staying trapped is not. Using secrets creates control through fear. But when all else fails, they resort to their final tactic, destroying what they can't have. 8. They try to destroy what they can't control. When nothing else works, when they can't manipulate you back, can't make you doubt yourself, can't control how others see you, they move to destruction. If they can't have access to you, they'll try to make sure your life without them isn't better than it was with them. You've seen this shift before. The moment they realize you're actually leaving, actually moving on, actually building something without them, something changes. The tactics stop being about pulling you back. They become about tearing down whatever you're building. There was a man named Adrian who lived through this final stage. He ended a friendship after years of recognizing manipulation. He thought walking away would be the end of it. He was wrong. It was just the beginning. His former friend started reaching out to people in Adrian's professional network, not saying anything directly damaging that would be too obvious, just planting seeds of doubt. I'm a little worried about Adrian lately. He's been making some questionable decisions. Just thought you should know, as someone who cares. An opportunity Adrian had been working toward for months suddenly fell through. Later, he learned his former friend had contacted the decision-makers casually, of course. A new relationship Adrian was building suddenly cooled without explanation. He eventually discovered his former friend had happened to meet this person and mentioned some concerns. Nothing was overtly attackable. Everything was deniable. But the pattern was undeniable. If Adrian wouldn't stay in the friendship, his life outside of it would be made as difficult as possible. Here's why they do this. For someone who sees relationships as control, your freedom is an insult. Your thriving without them proves they weren't as essential as they believed. They can't accept that, so they try to ensure you don't thrive. This final stage isn't about winning you back. It's about making sure your independence costs you. It's punishment for seeing through them. It's revenge for taking back your power. If they can't have you, they'll make sure no one else sees your value either. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Their destruction attempts reveal their character, not yours. Don't become bitter. Don't retaliate. Stay focused on building your life. Your success, your peace, is the answer they can't stand but can't prevent. You've probably had someone try to damage what you were building after you walked away. Watched opportunities disappear for reasons that didn't make sense. Felt the shadow of someone working against you from a distance. Document what you can. Limit their access to information about your life. Protect what you're building. But most importantly, keep building. Their destruction attempts are desperate. Your continued growth is the only response that matters. 8 things harmful people do when they know that you know. They suddenly become extremely nice. They rewrite history. They turn others against you. They play the victim. They make you look like the crazy one. They test your boundaries repeatedly. They use your secrets against you. And when nothing else works, they try to destroy what they can't control. If this helped you recognize tactics you've experienced, subscribe. We're building awareness together. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." See clearly, stay grounded, protect your peace, and never let their tactics pull you into becoming what they are. Your awareness is your armor.